Interpretation of meaning and communication. There's a reason why we can travel to countries all around the world, and it's not because we speak 40 languages. It's because we've got the benefit of body language to smile and point and gesture and motion. So communication is all about the body language, followed closely by tone. So now we're going to get to my next tip of the night. Beware of relying on email to solve an issue or resolve conflict. Has anyone not been caught in email hell, the back and forth? Now it's text hell as well. So I cannot stress enough, especially as members of council, the minute you feel the escalation happening, or you read the escalation, stop writing, go to live communication. Go to live communication, right? So I have a group of property managers. I mentioned I run the rental division. I have a group of property managers, and every once in a while, one of them comes to me to say, man, you know, I've got this client or this tenant, and you know, this email they send is just so nasty. What is the question? What's the first question I ask them? Did you pick up the phone? Did you pick up the phone? Right? And the answer a lot of times is, well, you know, I'm so busy. Okay, well then be prepared for this never-ending escalation. So I don't have a council example. I've got another one for you. But yes, sir, go ahead.
The other thing is pick up the phone. You can talk to them. You can work it out. You can make even promises, but you haven't put a bloody thing in writing with no emotion. If you put it in writing, it'll come back to haunt you.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes putting it in writing seems like it's the right thing to do, and yet all it does is pour gasoline onto the fire, at least until you've gotten to the resolution and you want to document the resolution, right? Yes, sir, go ahead.
I find emojis are wonderful.
Oh.
A smiley face will do.
Okay, so I've got a comment about emojis. So yes, and sometimes emojis can be perceived, because all about perception, right, as sarcastic or ironic. So you send me a smiley face and I think, oh, yeah, he thinks it's funny. But this is my air conditioning we're talking about, right?
Well, you have to be very, very careful.
Absolutely. There you go. Absolutely be careful. And sorry, I'm not picking on you. I'm really happy you brought up the thing about emojis. So I'm going to give you just a really short example around email, just to really reinforce this point. So sometimes I wear, I've got these sort of dress shirts, but they're a little out there. So they're paisley. Sometimes they have little orange buttons and things like that. And so I'm a little self-conscious sometimes when I wear them, because I never know if they're really, appropriate for the situation. They're out there enough for me. Look how I dress. So let's say I wear that shirt to an event, and then I get an email from someone, and the only thing the email says is, nice shirt. I mean, without belaboring the point, you can see how I might interpret that one of two ways. Am I feeling really self-confident? It's like, yeah, that's great. Or am I feeling really insecure? And I think, oh, yeah, that's great. Just, pour salt into the wound. So, this one, be very, very careful about you or letting anyone on council or the person you're speaking with spin up the conflict through email. Shut it down. It'll save you tons of time. So, listening. Most people think they're good listeners. However, listening takes practice. And what happens are things like we listen just long enough until we think we know what the problem is, or we actually say, let's have a conversation, but I'm not really in a place to hold a conversation. So listening is actually an acquired skill. And so here is what I'm going to recommend when you need to be in a place where you've got to now listen deeply to someone who you're looking to help them manage through conflict. Go to your Zen space. We all have it, our Zen space. And when you're in your Zen space, you stay curious. So instead of saying what your problem is, or what you're saying to me is, you actually stay curious and you ask questions like, tell me more about that. Or, oh, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about it from that perspective. What else is on your mind? I'm curious about what you just said there. What else do you have to say about it? So curiosity, 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 rather than going to, I know what you're telling me, boom, I'm going to go to the end. Stay generous. Give benefit of the doubt. As I said, most people don't want to stay in conflict. They actually want to move out of it as quickly as possible. And your job is to help them. And you do that by assuming the best, and helping them move through it. Also, and this is an important one for you on council, because everyone hangs on your word, whether you like it or not. You are the leaders of your building. Do not assume that the message that you put out is the way the message was received. Right? So the way you correct for that is you ask things like, could you repeat what you heard me say? I just want to check in. Curiosity, curiosity. Make sure they're actually hearing what you're saying and that you are hearing what they say. Here. So this is really sort of we're happy to provide you this with the slides. You need to prepare for conversations. If you're not in a space to have it, better off to just not have it. Wait for it. Right? And if you're going to prepare, you do things like ask for a good time and place to discuss, because the other person needs to be in a good place. Right? When would be a good time for us to get together and discuss this, rather than, by God, we're going to solve this right here and now? Ask their perspective. We talk about that. Tell them yours. So spells dear, describe, explain, ask, request, summarize, and follow up. It's a very prescriptive method. And the reason why I'm standing here with you today to talk about it is because we often forget when we want to do some shorthand and get to the end. However, some of these things will actually allow you to diffuse the conflict faster than sort of just practicing the same old, same old. And here's what I would say around setting the tone for conflict management in your councils. You set the tone for how residents handle conflict. They look to you to decide what is acceptable behavior, what you're going to tolerate and what you're not going to tolerate. So remember that. The eyes are on you. Whether you like it or not, that's just the reality of the position that you're in. And then, as a council, ask yourself these questions. What building culture do we want to have? Is it find first and ask questions later? Is it ignore the issue and hope it goes away? What is it you want to have as a culture? And then start practicing that culture, and the building will respond. And then some other questions that you as a council, you as an individual council member can ask, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? They're not the same thing. A lot of people can be happy without ever being right. The other thing is, do you want to fight or do you want to solve the problem? Right? Sometimes you really have to ask, is this worth it in the bigger scope of what you're looking to do? And I know this sounds sometimes a little motherhoody. I'm here to remind you of that because you took the time to come here. And sometimes we just need to be together in a collective space that allows us to say, yeah, there are a few things that I can do. Because my belief is that you can manage creative conflict. And when you're managing the conflict and you're making it creative, you are avoiding it sliding into dysfunction. And I think that is the biggest achievement you can do as council, because you are confronted with stuff all of the time. And if you can succeed here, well, the downside is you'll never be able to leave council because everyone will always want you to come back again. And there you go. Thank you very much.